Imagine a world where the mind was a mystery, where people believed mental illness was caused by evil spirits, and the human brain was thought to have no control over emotions or thoughts. But then curiosity sparked a revolution. Before we start, welcome back to our channel. This is where you will know about psychology better than anywhere else. If you struggle with any mental health issues, remember, I'm here to help you. Feel free to contact me anytime. Over centuries, bold thinkers sought to answer a question that still haunts us today. How does the human mind really work? This is the story of psychology, how we went from exorcisms to brain scans, from wild theories to modern science. Psychology's history begins as far back as ancient civilizations, where people sought to explain the mysteries of human behavior. In Egypt and Mesopotamia, illnesses of the mind were thought to be caused by supernatural forces. Shamans and healers used rituals to cure people, believing that spirits had possessed their bodies. Fast forward to ancient Greece, and thinkers like Hippocrates suggested a radically different idea, that mental disorders had physical causes. Hippocrates believed that an imbalance of bodily fluids, or humors, influenced human behavior and personality. He argued that the brain was responsible for emotions and thought, a revolutionary idea at the time. Meanwhile, philosophers like Plato and Aristotle pondered over the nature of the soul and consciousness, debating the line between rational thought and emotional impulse. While these thinkers laid the groundwork, it was still more philosophy than science. The Renaissance sparked new interest in human nature, pushing the boundaries of art, science, and medicine. But the real shift towards psychology as we know it came with the Enlightenment. In the 17th century, thinkers like René Descartes started viewing the mind and body as separate entities. This idea of dualism, where the mind and body could be studied independently, became the foundation for future scientific exploration. Descartes' famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am," opened the door to the concept of consciousness as something worth investigating. His work paved the way for later psychologists to ask deeper questions about the mind's relationship with the body. But psychology was still considered philosophy. That would all change in the 19th century, when one man would take psychology out of the armchair and into the laboratory. In 1879, Wilhelm Wundt founded the very first psychology laboratory in Leipzig, Germany, officially marking psychology's transition into a scientific discipline. Wundt wanted to understand the structures of consciousness by breaking them down into basic elements. This approach became known as structuralism. He used introspection, asking people to describe their thoughts and feelings as they performed simple tasks, which he believed could unlock the building blocks of mental life. But not everyone agreed with Wundt's approach. While he was focused on introspection, other psychologists sought to explain behavior, not just by analyzing the mind's structure, but by observing its functions. William James, an American psychologist, introduced functionalism, an approach that explored how mental processes help people adapt to their environment. James was more interested in the why of mental processes rather than the what. And then, of course, we can't talk about the history of psychology without mentioning Sigmund Freud. In the early 20th century, Freud introduced psychoanalysis, a theory focused on unconscious desires, childhood experiences, and repressed emotions. Freud believed that our behavior was driven by inner conflicts buried deep in the unconscious mind. His theories were as controversial as they were groundbreaking, and while modern psychology has moved past many of his ideas, Freud remains one of the most influential figures in the history of the field. As the 20th century progressed, psychology expanded into new directions. Behaviorism emerged as a dominant force in the early 1900s, thanks to figures like John Watson and B.F. Skinner. Behaviorists believed that all human actions could be explained through conditioning, stimulus, and response. In this view, the mind was less important than observable behavior, and psychology became all about experiments with rats, pigeons, and humans. The rise of behaviorism helped psychology become more scientific, with a focus on experimentation, measurement, and observable facts. But soon, other psychologists began to feel that behaviorism ignored too much of what makes us human: our thoughts, feelings, and the complex workings of the mind. By the mid-20th century, the cognitive revolution was underway. Psychologists like Jean Piaget, Noam Chomsky, and Aaron Beck argued that we couldn't fully understand human behavior without studying the mind's inner workings: memory, perception, problem-solving, and language. Cognitive psychology emerged, focusing on how people think, learn, and remember. Today, psychology is a thriving and diverse field that continues to evolve. Neuroscience has become a vital part of understanding how the brain shapes behavior. Psychologists use advanced tools like brain imaging to study mental processes and treat disorders. From counseling techniques to cognitive behavioral therapy, psychology is at the forefront of mental health care. So, here we are, a long journey from the ancient shamans and philosophers to a modern science that continues to probe the deepest mysteries of human thought and behavior. What started as a curiosity about the mind has become a field that shapes nearly every aspect of our lives, from how we learn and grow to how we cope with the stresses of daily life. Psychology is not just a history of ideas, it's a story about what it means to be human. If you've ever been fascinated by why we think, feel, and act the way we do, hit that subscribe button. Because here, where you will know about psychology better than anywhere else. See you soon.